People, let's wake up in the den. Alongside Michael Lescaro and Paul Brecht, I'm Kule Agbayani. Happy Aloha Monday. Hope you guys had a phenomenal weekend. We did as well. Very busy, and tell you some fun stories later on coming up on the show, maybe for our little Sierra Tango Sierra segment, because yesterday was quite the party, and it got very entertaining with my family, as it always does. So we'll have a little fun with that. Also coming up on the show, it's Monday, so like I said, lots to recap, especially high school football. So we will tell you and show you, for those watching on YouTube, the scores that you may have missed over the weekend, powered by Scoring Live. Also, we got a lot of University of Hawaii football talk, which we will get to in just a second. But also coming up in the second hour around 9:30, special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield will join us live to kind of recap fall camp as it relates to his unit in special teams especially. And I don't know, maybe he might or might not say who the starting kicker is, because I know that's kind of the question looming right now throughout camp. And as he's always been saying, it's really up in the air. So we'll see. But also I'm excited to ask him a little bit about Tylen Hines, which we will tell you about in just a little bit as well. Also coming up later today at 9 a.m. that you guys can watch on ESPN television, Central East Maui will be playing in the Little League World Series as they take on, it feels weird. It's like Hawaii on Hawaii crime, because they're taking on a team from Henderson, Nevada, that's representing the mountain region. That team finished 4-1 in region play. So that game is coming up at 9 a.m. So if you guys aren't going to watch it or you're driving around, of course, we will give you updates once the game gets started around or just after 9 o'clock. But yeah, a lot of stuff to get to today. That's why we have now our 2-hour shows, and it's going to be pretty packed. But we'll start off with UH football and fall camp. It's pretty cool though. Like over here, if you guys can see on our YouTube channel, we were gifted the Hawai'i Almanac to help us with our University of Hawaii football discussions. It's this really nice book. Shout out to Derek Inouchi and staff for giving us these on Saturday, because it has pretty much everything from your like team records and everything from the past. Paul, show the beautiful people a little bit. You have the closer view of the almanac, so it's really, really cool. So our team has this to help us, and it's officially UH football season, you guys. We are so excited. But yeah, going out to fall camp. So Paul and I were out there. It's the first time I got a chance to really see the team, because as you guys know, I'm here talking to you beautiful people, when the other guys, Paul and Michael, got a chance to see them during the fall camp and even in the spring. But from what I saw, I guess they worked on a lot of situational football, which Timmy, we'll let you hear from Timmy in just a little bit. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. One thing that stood out to me in terms of the defensive side, and situational football is something we'll also talk about when it comes to coaching and what happened in that St. Louis game that Michael and I, the St. Louis Mililani game. Situational football, it seems so basic, but it will show that it's important. So I wanted to bring up even just the defensive side. We got new defensive coordinator, Dennis Thurman, and they were basically practicing kind of like Hail Mary situations, like game-ending situations where what does the defense do? Don't try to catch the ball. You just try to bat it down. And one of the players, he, poor thing, because he accidentally like batted it up in the end zone. And that's probably like the last thing you want to do. But it was interesting because Dennis Thurman, well, his teammates were like, you have to bat it down. But Dennis Thurman came to him as well. And he said, if it's that situation, you can only have a choice to bat it up, make sure you bat it out of bounds, so, out the end zone. So little things like that is really cool to see when you go to these practices and what they work on. Kansei came about 3 yards short of maybe like a 43-yard field goal. I think they were practicing is what I saw. So some of the interesting takeaways. But what is something that you saw, Paul and Michael, maybe something that you've seen for your couple times that you've been out there as well?
Well, one, Stephen Tsai reported this, but John Keave Songapuletele is your QB2 at the end of fall camp. I had been thinking he had a pretty good camp in general. I had mentioned it to you guys a couple of times as well. And part of it is, I'd imagine, a consideration for a red shirt as well for Micah Alejado, as obviously you still have Braden Shager. And with everything going correct for the Bows, you would be able to maintain that year of eligibility for Micah going forward as well. But John has also just straight up won the job. He has been really, really solid from start to finish from what I have seen. And, that's on multiple levels. That's taking care of the football. That's running the offense. That's giving a good look with the second team unit. It's really cool for him to see a redshirt freshman. And when I say he earned the job, I really, really do mean he earned the job. Kind of same things that you've seen. The attention to detail now with this team feels like what it's supposed to be as you go into year 3, feels like what it's supposed to be for a team who legitimately believes that they are going to compete for a bowl game this year. And to do that, you need to take care of the little details, and that's what they do in practice, like you mentioned, with Coach Thurman, batting it down, batting it out of bounds, the little things that you might not think of, but man, can they play a massive role come the season. And that's what I saw on Saturday as well, is they just continue to practice those, fine-tune those, and get ready for their first game of the season, which is already upon us. It's game week, folks.
It's game week.
Yeah, and I want to dove or piggyback off of Paul was saying in attention to detail, and we saw that all in the spring practice. I think the first media availabilities we went to, our interviews, that was the number one thing, was attention to detail. And talking to these players with Coach Dennis Thurman or Coach DT or however they call Coach Thurman, they have a lot of names, and that's good. That's good that you call your coach a lot of names or a lot of acronym or short and form, because that shows that relationship that you have with your coach. And I like that coaching point you talked about where you batting, instead if you're going to bat it up, bat it out of bounds, right? And I think that's the thing with football too, is that there are rules, in situationals and situationships, but there are also exceptions to the rule based on what's happening. And, you want to say you bat it down, but we saw a couple years back in the NFL, maybe a decade ago in the NFL, I'm dating myself, where against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they had a Hail Mary. The defensive back did bat it down, but a receiver came away and caught it, and it was, and that was really fun. But yeah, I think and talking to the defensive players with Coach Thurman, they always kind of have the same thing. They always say it's a simple defense, but it's a complex defense. So that's kind of cool, because it's simple for them to comprehend and execute, but it's complex where they can kind of fool with the defense. And I think in turn that is going to make the offense better, because I think Jonah Pinoque was saying it, that the defense kind of knows what the offense is trying to run. So that requires the offense to be able to execute their much better. They have to be on their P's and their Q's. They have to make sure that they're also attention to detail against this defense in practice, because when I've seen them, the defense were kind of getting the edge on the offense, and that's usually something that you don't see usually often. Now when they play a different team, that's harder for the teams to replicate, because there are things that this offense does. I think normally if in football, you divide the field into 4 quadrants in the deep zones, but the run and shoot, there's actually 5 zones where there's exceptions where they might run a post a little bit more skinnier. They might run a slant a little bit shallower. And so it's going to be hard for opposing scout teams to replicate. And that's kind of why I think they're going to come out this weekend and they're going to cover. They're going to cover the 37 and a half, whatever it is.
I think the only odds that I've seen it posted in your legal sports books is at DraftKings. I had posted that Circa does not have this Saturday's Hawai'i game on their boards.
Boo.
I know, I'm like, boo, on their boards at all. But they do have next week, which UCLA is quite a ways away. We got to get through Delaware State first. But going back to the situational football and just running through certain things at fall camp, or on Saturday anyways, there was a point where they did have like the first team offense out there, and they just kind of ran through almost like when you need to get down the field quick type of thing. So that was pretty interesting. And Braden Shager, he looked good. He looked sharp. There was one situation though, someone ran the slant and then he threw behind him, and I was like, ooh, that can't do that. You don't want to ever throw behind your receivers, but those are the little things that hopefully get fixed. He did throw a Shager bomb as well, so I was like, all right, and I believe it was to Jonah Pinoque on that one towards the right side. So I was like, this is really interesting to watch them just go through and speed up the like up tempo offense, trying to just get down the field, because we've talked about this a lot, is that we don't really want to see, ideally you really don't want to see that many shaker bombs, because I think you mentioned it, Michael, that could essentially mean that you're trying to go for like the 4th and long or third and long type of situation where hopefully they can just gain yardage, work their way down the field, and get into scoring position a lot better than they did last season. But already got to take a break. It's game week, folks, so we're all fired up about University of Hawaii football this Saturday. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will let you hear what head coach Timmy Chang had to say following fall camp on Saturday. Next on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? That sucks. Here's why on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. We are moving here this morning. Getting you guys woken up. I know, Michael's moving, and that's rare. If you guys have seen our Instagram story, I'm like the psycho that always likes to give you guys the BTS for our broadcasts on site of different games, and I'm always moving around taking little selfie videos, and Michael is just never amused by my selfie videos whatsoever. But continuing on with our University of Hawaii football talk, we'll definitely get into a lot the second hour as well. But coming up this weekend as they prepare for Delaware State in their season opener for Week 0, before we discuss it a little further, here is what head coach Timmy Chang had to say following their fall camp wrap-up on Saturday.
It was a good camp. You can see the progress of the guys, just kind of being in year 2, and year 3, and having 2 years under their belt. Just kind of knowing each other, again, knowing the systems, and then and just being a lot more comfortable in it, being able to execute the things that we want. Today was a whole lot of different situational football type of things, and they understand what we're trying to do, and that helps. It helps. It's a big week. At this time next week we'll be playing, and so it's here. So from last season to this season, this time right now, it's come fast, and these guys are ready. And so for them, it's just about believing. They haven't had a win record yet, but for us, it's just believing in what they've been doing and the process, and just believing in each other and one another, and going out there and executing and going to win.
It looks like John's made the climb. Is he your number 2?
Yeah, we got him at number 2 right now, and he's done a great job. He's a great quarterback. I mean, he started since he was we have a couple guys in there that started as freshmen in high school, and so John's one of them, and he'll take the backup behind Shaker.
Coach, how much is the 4-game red shirt something that you and the staff think about over the course of the season?
Yeah, it's there, and it's something that you got to kind of manage, especially at different position groups, right? You want to play some guys, but some guys might be forced to play due to injury and the schedule and those type of things. And so I think for us, using them correctly, not trying to just get them a game to get a game, but you don't want to run into a situation where you use 4 of the games and then you have to play them at the end and you really don't want to. And you want to save them for a red shirt. So there's a new postseason rule that they could play and won't count against them in the postseason, especially with the CFP coming up. And so, you hope to be able to use them in some situations. But we're good at developing. Good at developing guys and bringing guys in and just kind of growing them through our process. And so we look forward to using them.
I don't know if anyone's, at least days that I've been here, asked you about the CFP 12 teams, your thought, just on the big pictures of where the sport's at.
I think it's good for football. It's going to be exciting, especially toward that end of that year where December and January come up and it's exciting. I mean, the bowl games are exciting. The big bowl games and the CFP is exciting. The championships in the bowls, the conferences are exciting, and so it just adds to college football as it gets bigger and better. I think it's pretty cool.
Coach, on the subject of excitement for the season, I remember when you came in, one of the things you talked about was having a very lively game day atmosphere here on campus.
Sure.
Where do you feel like you guys are at, as a program, university, of establishing that? And my understanding by the release they put out yesterday, maybe toward the back end of the season is when you guys will maybe get some stuff going on upper campus.
Yeah.
The path there, and then maybe full tailgating the last game.
Well, I know where it's come from, and being at Aloha Stadium, I've been a part of playing in there, and then I've been a part of the tailgates as well, and so all that excitement, that's part of it. I think that's part of what the state wants, the people want, the community, coming to the games, enjoying the day with their family, and so as we work toward that goal of getting there, I guess we can control what we can, right? And that's been my philosophy and my take on it is that, hey, we're in the stadium, it's on campus, and hopefully we can get some tailgating and just really get the community around and get the people around, and so and make it a family atmosphere.
Coach, I know some coaches in college football have said they don't really believe in building a program anymore because of the transfer portal and stuff, but it seems like you guys, are building something. And so from that perspective, how would you say things are shaping up, in the third year for you?
Yeah, we are into building our culture, our program, our locker room, young men that will be leaders in the community. But that's just it's a testament to who we are as a community, as a state, right? I mean, it takes a village to raise a child, and we're no different, man. We really just want to pour into our guys, to love our guys up, and really have them grow. They're here for a reason, whatever reason that is. We got great coaches that are going to coach you up and get you ready, and so we'll embrace that. So, but I like the way that we raise our program, and we are different. I mean, we're different than the mentality of a lot of other colleges across the United States. We're just different because our community is different, our people are different, so our values are good and different.
Yeah, we're built different, baby. That was UH football head coach Timmy Chang following their fall camp wrap-up practice on Saturday. It wasn't really a scrimmage. It was more of they did individual drills, as we said earlier, and as Coach Timmy said, a lot of situational football that they worked in and kind of went through a mock game scenario, but not a full scrimmage or anything. Obviously, they're going to get through to the hard-hitting football this coming week as they gear up for Delaware State. Not taking any opponent lightly just because they're from the FCS and just because it's a 38.5 point favorite, which Michael is taking Hawaii to cover.
37.5. right? I did the
Oh
line
yeah,
move up.
we're
We-
giving you
we did
37
give-
and a
we
half.
gave him the
We're giving him the
37
37 and a half for our. And again, for anybody, this is just our in studio team betting with amongst our dollar pizza like thing. Don't get it twisted that we're.
I have written it down. I
Oh,
am
he
manifesting
made it official. Here,
and
give it to
we-
Paul so that he can
We'll
show
put it
it
on
up
the
to the
glass. We'll put it on the glass, and I have
Show the people,
Post-it
Paul.
notes
It's
here,
right
too.
there. The post-it is up.
if anybody wants
Two
to make-
defensive touchdowns or 4 takeaways. So there you go, Michael Lescaro putting in.
Not shaking at all, by the way.
It's in permanent marker. So there we go. It's officially official. But 6:00 p.m. this Saturday at the Clarence T.C. Ching Athletics Complex, and yeah, Paul's putting it on our official
That's
wagering
the-
board.
I was gonna say that's the prediction board, isn't it?
There we
That's
go.
where we had the NFL
our
predictions
prediction
last
board.
year. This year we have Hawaii versus Delaware State prediction, and maybe if it's correct or even close, or if it's crazy wrong, then overall
we just laugh about it.
Well,
It's
here's
funny.
the thing: we could keep doing it. if it can come back to some significance, you know that I will come back and call it out. I can't wait for there to be a defensive touchdown. The immediate group text touch.
Oh, we're going to be
about
obnoxious.
there's one.
There it is. And we're waiting for the second one to come down just so Michael does not have to pay another $1 into our little pizza party hat that we have dubbed it so far. But going back, I wanted to go back to, you guys heard it on that little interview scrum with Coach Timmy. We mentioned it earlier in the previous segment that John Keave Sangapolu-Tele is officially QB2, at least for this week. Behind starting quarterback Braden Shager. So I kind of wanted to go back to you, Michael, because you've been covering high school sports, especially football, for a long time, and obviously saw John a lot when he was playing at Punahou. But what are some of the things that make him that you've seen maybe at Punahou, and then if you were able to kind of see him at some of these practices with UH, what he can bring as the backup QB?
Well, first off, I think you got to give credit to the family, right? And I think you got to kind of give some credit to the younger brother, Jaren Keave Sangapolu, who's probably QB1 in the state right now, for kind of pushing him to be better, because Jaren's the one going to Cal. Jaren's the one, getting all the accolades, right? Or getting the hype, Elite 11, and as the older brother, hey, I'm still the older brother here in this family. But yeah, I really liked him. I think I got a sum against Kamehameha his senior year at Punahou. And he did a really good job. Like, he was throwing the spots where the receivers weren't there yet. And I think in the run and shoot, that's what you kind of need to do, because you need to be on the same page as the receiver, and you need to have that trust and that chemistry. So I know he definitely has that. And he's I'm just gonna say it. He's Polynesian. He's built right. He can take a beating back there. He can also kind of take off and run. And I think in the state championship against Kahuku, I think he probably needed to use his legs more, because some of his receivers were dropping passes, so he needed to kind of run, and he almost had a chance to break off a touchdown run against Kahuku, and that's not something that you normally can do against the Red Raiders. So I think he provides another element. He's definitely been getting some reps with some of the older players. Looking back and now reflecting on what I saw in the little, there was no depth chart, but a lot of the receivers that Micah Alejado was throwing to were some of these freshman receivers that potentially could redshirt by playing the 4 games. So he definitely has more reps with some of these players. So I'm and ultimately, hopefully we don't get to see him too much, because that means Braden Shager is throwing it out. Or maybe we see him a lot more, because we're, again, 37.5 point favorites. We can rest Braden in the fourth quarter if that's the case.
That's very, very true. But also, I wanted to kind of get into special teams before we welcome Thomas Sheffield in the second hour, just to make a little note about it, that we did learn on Saturday, and Paul had a chance to catch up with Tylen Hines, which you guys will hear from him a little later in the week, not today, but he is officially going to be receiving kickoffs and punts, which was interesting. We saw him make the move from running back to the receiver position. That was, everyone kind of knew about that. But then as camp went along, we kind of saw him start to get into the special teams unit as well. So I think that's interesting. That's something we'll definitely ask Thomas whenever he joins us, again, coming up at around 9:30, just what led to him making a move and being a part of special teams as well. But what were some of the takeaways that you had from Tylen when we were able to chat with him on Saturday, Paul?
He's juiced up. He's ready to go and ready to be back on the field for the Bows. And any Hawaii football fan should feel the same way to see him out there. Obviously, he's making a switch in terms of position. He's going from running back to wide receiver. That has been, I don't want to say a slow process, but that's been more of a process than him sliding into the special teams unit, where he really just looks like a natural back there. Whenever you see him fielding punts, fielding kicks, it is incredibly, incredibly smooth. It comes on down. He tracks it well. And then from there, he's able to use his God-given abilities, his gifts of speed, his lateral agility, his quickness, his vision. We talk about the position switch, but this is an opportunity for him to feel like a running back once again, where you kind of catch it and then you go from there. You see, and all right, where's the hole opening up? And he's going to be a weapon for Coach Sheffield, for the Bows, for Coach Chang, for all of them to be excited about this year, not just offensively, but because special teams can flip the field, not just the punter, not just the kicker, coffin corner, yada, 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 but when you actually have a dynamic returner, and that's what I truly believe Tylen Hines can be for Hawaii, you can all of a sudden take those drives from before. We were talking about extending the drives. You don't need a Shager bomb as much when the field isn't 80 yards, 90 yards, 70 yards. When the field's only 50 yards, 40 yards, you can dink and dunk a little bit, and it's a little bit easier to understand that, all right, we're going to get points from this drive. So I think it's a great move. I think it's a great thing for Hawaii in general. And I'm excited because Tylen's excited about it. He's just excited to be back out there. He had the biggest smile on his face as I was chatting with him. So happy for him, happy for the Bows. Happy that we finally get a chance to see some real football come Saturday.
And he didn't even want to get off the field. I feel like we were waiting.
He was
to
the
chat with
last
him.
one that we spoke with, because it was after they had been brought back in or called in for dinner. They have dinner afterwards because we talk about all the time the Brotherhood grinds and all that. But so as they're getting called in, finally I was like, hey, I didn't want to interrupt you, because he was catching passes from Braden.
Mm-hmm.
And while Braden was getting interviewed, catching passes from other players, not even just quarterbacks, just anyone who would throw him the ball. Like I said before, the transition to wide receiver has been one that he is working his tail off on. And then two, after he was done with that, he's gone and he's fielding punts down at the other end. So he's working really hard. Really excited to see him out there just in general, even if it took a little bit longer to chat with him at practice.
Yeah, and I feel like fielding punts is probably one of the hardest things to do. I don't think people realize how difficult it can be to catch a football that's up high in the air, and then you're trying to judge where it is. You might lose it in the lights and everything.
It's also raining on Saturday.
Yeah, it can rain. That can totally mess up when you try to catch it. So for someone that's sliding into this position for the first time, it's very good to see him work on those things, because we know about his speed. Once he gets a little bit of space, he can take off. And that's something I brought up before, where he was just not able to gain enough space when he was in the running back position to see what we've seen from him before in his freshman year. But now if he's able to just get enough space to gain that speed and that we know that he has, it's going to be electrifying to see him return the football. But you actually have to catch it in order to return it. And I just wanted to make sure everyone kind of realizes that is really, really, really difficult to say the least. And I'm sure you guys can agree as well. It's something, it's kind of one of those jobs that you don't, and special teams in general, right? It's kind of like the thankless unit sometimes that doesn't seem like it affects the game, but it affects the game when things go wrong. So the same thing when things go right is how important special teams are. So it's almost like today will be our special teams day, because we will chat with Thomas Sheffield, a special teams coordinator and tight ends coach, coming up in the second hour. So we'll wrap up. This will be the wrap up for our UH football conversation for now, until we get into hour number 2. And of course, talk about it some more, because it is game week this Saturday. Hawaii versus Delaware State, week 0 to open up their season, and we're looking forward to it. 6 p.m. We will see you guys at the Clarence T.C. Chang Athletics Complex. When we come back, want to take a look at some of the few other week 0 football matchups, and I wasn't planning on it, but when it comes to NFL talk, did you guys see what Tua Tagovailoa finally said and kind of stood up for himself when it came to his former head coach?
I didn't see the exact quote, but I did see that he had said something. So we'll talk about that coming up.
We'll
I'm
definitely tell you guys about it. So don't go anywhere. You saw it. I saw it too. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? That sucks. Here's why on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Aloha and good morning, Honolulu. From the Salem Media Traffic Center, I'm Taizo Braden. Our Monday morning commute has definitely been busy. We have a new accident. This is on the H1.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside DJ Paulie B, Michael Escaro. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 right here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. And you can listen on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And every Monday, like we are right now, streaming live on YouTube. Woo! Shakas and hello from everyone of us in studio. Mahalo again for supporting us. And yeah, not just this broadcast, but we've already started our broadcast of high school football as well that you can listen to on demand and listen to on our YouTube. So we're just rocking and rolling here. Mahalo to Hawaii Pacific Health and Dial Electric Supply for supporting our high school broadcast this season. And hopefully more of you will want to support too. Just saying, just throwing it out there. Text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. All right. So we've been talking about a lot of UH football. Week 0, obviously. There are, however, 3 other games. So Saturday will just be all day college football. It's here. I'm actually kind of curious. We mentioned our little pizza party wager that's going to take place amongst our team here. But I'm actually really interested because I've talked about this before when it comes to conference realignment and how I don't understand why conferences wouldn't want Hawaii in their conference, because then all eyes will be on your conference, one of your conference members and schools. This obviously there's no games just because it's week 0 at that time. But for the most part, every home game, Hawaii is going to be the lone game. Obviously, it's the late game. So I would be curious just to see what the handle would be, especially Paul's people in the Northeast area, that it seems to break the records and every time now that gambling is legal in those states. And just
this game will be bet on. Don't you worry.
Oh, it's going to be insane. That's why I'm curious to see what the final, I mean, you don't really know until later, until they kind of do, but they take all the accounts and everything, but it'll be very interesting about what it'll be. So 38.5 at some places. We're giving Michael 37.5, and Hawaii is the favorite. But other games coming up this Saturday, you will have Florida State, who is currently ranked number 10 at Georgia Tech, Montana State at New Mexico, and SMU at Nevada. So college football starts nice and early, 6 a.m. Hawaii time with Florida State and Georgia Tech. I know a lot of these schools, it's not like quite interesting. I know people listening are like, meh, it doesn't seem as exciting as Delaware State and Hawaii. But I'm kind of curious when it comes to like schools that we're very familiar with in terms of SMU at Nevada might be an intriguing one for fans to look forward to.
That's the new, I mean, oh my God, how many times have we said this offseason how new coaches have entered the Mountain West? That's the debut for one of them, right? Where I believe his name's Jeff Choate. He's taken over on that side, and Nevada has struggled the last few years. Ever since Jay Norvell left, and obviously we've benefited as well from taking from that Nevada staff, but they're looking to go back up to where they were just a few years ago, where they were producing some quality NFL talent. They were competing, and this is an opportunity to see where the new direction of the program is going. I'm excited to see what that is. New Mexico also playing. Interested to see how that is, as Montana State actually a 10-point favorite in that. Like you said, some familiar foes, some teams we've seen before. And what are they going to do? How did their season start? They're not 38-point favorite.
Well, we mentioned our friends at Circa, and if we take a look at some of their lines that they posted yesterday for week 0 and week 1, they don't have the Delaware State and Hawaii game up there, but they only have 2 games from week 0, and that being the Florida State, only favored by 11 over Georgia Tech, so that's kind of intriguing. And then, as you mentioned with Nevada, Nevada is the 27-point dog to SMU.
At home, by the way.
At home, you're right. Good point out by you, Paul. So that was kind of intriguing too. Again, our friends at Circus Sports, that's their odds that they posted yesterday, and obviously it can change throughout the week. That's just how all of these lines go, but only a couple of lines for week 0. But I thought that was very interesting to see from them, because I'm like, dang, 27, and you're like, you're Nevada, and you're not like an FCS school like Delaware State, so it's understandable, and a FCS school that didn't do very well last year as well. But Nevada, 27-point dog to SMU.
Have you guys seen anything? Is AJ Bianco still over there at Nevada?
I believe so. I think he played a hand in the recruitment of St. Louis shortstop Sean Yamaguchi.
That's right.
But going back to SMU, I know they're trying to level up. They're moving to the ACC, and I got to go to Abel Hole PE's commitment day. We'll get to broadcast Abel Hole PE this Friday, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
HSRN, Franklin versus Rancho Mirage. But yeah. He had a quote where he's like, "Oh yeah, they're trying to get a Polynesian starting 5 on the offensive line." So SMU, and then they also have a lot of money with NIL. Remember back in they had I forgot what it's called, but back in the day they got some sanctions, but now everything is sort of free game. So they have some disposals out there. I mean, they did lure June Jones away from us for like how many money, right? So. I'm not. It's surprising, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised about that. I think that Georgia State game, Georgia Tech versus Florida State. I believe that game is actually in Dublin, Ireland. So
you're right, Aviva Stadium in Dublin.
Yeah, so that's gonna be kind of fun to watch. See what the vibe is, in Ireland. Usually we hear like the Germany games. I think both you guys team play in Europe, so. I think it's going to be kind of cool to see the temperature of that game.
Oh, gosh. Don't even bring up my team right now, because you guys are about to make me be obnoxious. So I won't bring bring up the Bears right now because Caleb Williams is the bomb. Anyways, but that's a good segue into a little bit of NFL talk as Tua Tagovailoa was on the Dan Le Batard, well, I don't know if it was the show or the podcast, but he got very, very candid, surprisingly, about his former head coach, Brian Flores. It's kind of what was already speculated in the media about that relationship, somewhat of a tumultuous relationship between his former head coach and Tua. But basically, Tua said that, in as best as I can, because we don't have the audio, but he said, quote, like, if you woke up every morning and I told you that you suck at what you did, that you don't belong, that you shouldn't be here, that you haven't earned this. And that was him describing Brian Flores, where you flip it now to McDaniels that is there, and it's the complete opposite. So basically, when the coaching change happened, now his current head coach has continued to tell him, like, hey, you belong here, and like, you're good, you belong, you fit with this team. And like, so just essentially building Tua up. And we brought it up before, and how important that will be, because especially if you're a young quarterback that is still impressionable, I guess it could be the right term to use, just coming into the league, and you're being told all of these things like you're not good, you don't belong here, by your head coach, because the fans are going to say what they want. Like the public, the social media, they're going to say all this kind of stuff. Even if you click on the comments of this Twitter post, obviously people will be like, well, Brian Flores was right, all that stuff about Tua. Like, people are going to say what they're going to say. But to hear, like, from your head guy in charge, all that negativity, like, I can't imagine how miserable it was for Tua to play under that circumstance as a rookie. And now how we've seen him be able to adjust, and almost like a breath of fresh air, like under his new well, I guess not new anymore, but current head coach, giving him like the positive vibes. Obviously, you're going to be real with I'm sure, like, it's not all, praising him with glory all the time, but at least it's a difference of like just more of the positivity that Tua has. And we've seen it. I mean, we've seen him get his massive deal now, and then we've seen him be as accurate as, yes, he has the weapons, of course, but someone needs to throw the pass to those weapons that he has. And he's been phenomenal with all of his weapons that he does have and under this coaching staff. So it was very interesting to see Tua get candid. I mean, we know very well, covering him here in Hawaii for so long, that he's always been here in Hawaii, and then also at Alabama, of course, has always been kind of just always saying the political answers, always kind of doing the, okay, what will not get me in trouble, basically. And now I'm like, I'm liking this Tua, and he got a little spicy before. I think, like, I was
going to say,
in
the
spring,
last year or so, we've started to see spicy Tua a little bit more and more, and it's cool to see because I think part of it is the situation, right, where he talks about it right here. He's started to finally feel more comfortable. He feels like he belongs in the league. He's got his deal. He's like, there are a whole bunch of things where, finally he can speak a little bit more openly about what those beginning few years were like, where it was back and forth, snip, snap with him and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And, if you look at the numbers, then you'd be like, well, Flores was probably right, where Tua wasn't anything special the first couple of years, but then now you get this additional insight where you're like, oh, well, I don't know how many people would be successful under those situations. How many young quarterbacks, right? You bring it up beautifully, where he could have very easily had his confidence crushed. Everything had gone by the wayside. And football is such a mental game a lot of times, where it can be so physically taxing on your body that you need to have that mental fortitude, and you need to have people in your corner. And if you feel like the head guy isn't in your corner, it can be really tough to do your job. And you've seen the development over the past few years go from a guy that a lot of people were questioning if he was going to actually stick in Miami or if he was going to have to go to another place, to now, I mean, last year he was in the MVP conversation. At one point was an MVP front runner, and then, took a slight step back, but nonetheless had himself an all-time season for his career, and that trajectory only going up still. So it's cool to see Tua finally feel that comfort, not just on the field, but off the field and in front of microphones now as well. Because like you said, he's always given the politically the Alabama no character, pardon me, no charisma answer type of deal, where now finally he's got a little Miami in him, right? You
I know, because even at St. Louis here, right? Like he was definitely coached up to how to handle media interviews. I remember when we covered him at the Heisman, like I was still shocked at like how well spoken he was and how ultra correct, I guess, his answers were at the time. But yeah, I'm loving Spicy Tua and him like showing a little bit of swagger and personality that comes out. And you know what? Throw your former head coach under the bus, because if he really affected you mentally and said all those things, then people deserve to know. And I'm glad he stood up for himself and kind of said something.
Yeah, and I'm glad that, for me, it's what I'm proud of or happy for Tua is that he is discovering his identity, right? You would talk about the media and how he handles interviews. I know his dad coached up him and his younger brother, Talia, how to speak to media, like how you're supposed to say certain things. And, because I remember interviewing him as a sophomore where he was talking to me about cover 4 defense against Pac-5. And then I think he kind of, was kind of told not to share that information. And, he's kind of that. And, again, being in Hawaii, family and the Polynesian culture, family is everything, right? And then you go to Alabama where, part of his fate helped him go to that or influence that decision. And you're in Alabama, you're loved, right? You're loved by family here. You're loved at your school at St. Louis. You're loved in Alabama. And then you go to a place in Miami where your head coach doesn't believe in you. That shatters someone, right? And maybe part of it was true. Maybe part of it was gaslighting. But for someone like Tua with his background and experience, he needs someone to believe in him so that he can be the person that he is. And I'm just glad, of course he signed a new deal, so he's stuck. I mean, not stuck, but he's in Miami for the long haul. So you don't have to worry about that. So now you can kind of be more open. And I think it's also part of the healing process for Tua as well, so that he can be better mentally, is that, hey, I wasn't the problem. It's just the things didn't jive. It just didn't match. So for Tua, I mean, I already picked him to win the division, so I'm not surprised. So just glad that he's able to.
I knew that already. Don't worry.
Just glad that he's able to kind of come into his own and I don't want to say grow up where he needed to grow up, but like he's becoming the man that God wants him to be, and I love it.
Yeah, and I'm sure Miami Dolphins ownership is quite happy with that too, because I think the legal thing is still going on with Brian Flores, and maybe Tua felt like, hey, I could say something now because now the team has got my back because they gave him that massive deal, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna help do my team a solid now and throw the former head coach under the bus. So I think part of that could have happened too, but it's just such a different Tua that we were so used to. And like Paul mentioned, maybe in the past year, he's really started to become Spicy Tua, and we love to see it. And yeah, love to see him come into his own and really gain that personality and that just believing in himself. And I don't know, we'll hopefully Spicy Tua on these podcasts can be Spicy Tua on the football field, because I'll probably pick them too. Sorry, Paul, but we'll see.
You guys are more than welcome to.
Are you gonna write it down on the post-it and put it on the
maybe
board?
We'll see. We're gonna take a break, but when we come back, we'll wrap things up and get you a little bit of an update with the Little League World Series as Central East Maui gets ready to take the mound in about 10 minutes or so, and that you can watch on ESPN. But we'll tell you about what you may have missed in their previous game as well. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stuck in traffic? Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, we just got a few more minutes left in this first hour of Wake Up in the Den. Don't forget, stick around for hour number 2. Coming up a little later, we will welcome in the special teams coordinator and tight ends coach for your University of Hawaii football team, Thomas Sheffield. We'll also get into a ton of high school football also in the second hour, because there was a lot that you guys may have missed, including for some of you that maybe did watch the crazy game that was between Mililani and St. Louis. Like, you guys, it was insane. And Paul, as he mentioned in our text thread, was living vicariously through Mike and my Michael's and my like back and forth with everything that was going on in the game, because Michael was there live. I was watching it on Spectrum. And then it's kind of weird because I know obviously like on Spectrum it's delayed, so I wasn't sure like what you were seeing and what I was seeing, and it was wild. So we don't have a lot of time to talk about it right now, but we will get into it in the second hour, including hear from their associate head coach and their new starting quarterback, because as we know, Keeney McMillan has been out and will be out for, I guess, maybe the regular season is kind of the projection, hoping they can maybe have him back a little later, but we will see. But for now, they do have a new starting quarterback at Mililani, and we'll get you all of the scores and maybe kind of think about what the new power rankings will look like this week, because there was a lot that happened, and we might see quite the shakeup with the Scoring Live football power rankings being released later today. But to wrap up this first hour, coming up in a few minutes, you will have Central East Maui in the Little League World Series taking on Henderson, Nevada, who is the Mountain Region representatives. Central East Maui beat Illinois on Friday, 5-0. Starting pitcher Evan Tavares went 5.1 innings, had 9 strikeouts, allowing just 2 hits and a walk. Kellen Takamura had a hit and struck out 1 in relief. And because this is probably the big news when it comes to today's game, is that Evan Tavares will not be able to pitch. So he hit a pitch count of 65 on Friday. And because of the Little League rules that require 3 days rest for a pitch count of 51 to 65, he will not be able to, because this would be his 3rd day of rest, as it should be. But you can imagine, because you would want the other pitchers to get that experience. You need more pitchers than one to essentially win the Little League World Series. But at least this would be the game that he can maybe take a rest, because if somehow they do lose, they at least get another opportunity and will still be in this tournament.
And that was some of the calculation in allowing Tavares to go a bit further than what probably a lot of people expected him to go, because even the broadcasters discussed right around the 50 pitch mark. And for those who don't know, he did go over the 50 pitch mark during the middle of an at-bat. He's allowed to finish that at-bat, and he would still be able to come back after 2 days. After that at-bat had finished and he stayed in, that was when it was like, oh, okay, they are going to forego him pitching against the Mountain Region, as you mentioned before, a Henderson, Nevada team. So it's like double Hawaii almost. So he doesn't pitch today. That's probably a good thing for multiple reasons. One, I'm a big believer in that. A lot of kids have too much stress on their arms early on, so you never want to see that, especially how hard some of these guys are throwing. And two, like you said, this provides an opportunity for some other young men to get that opportunity to throw on the biggest stage, and you do it with a life raft under you, right? With a safety net under you of, if you do end up falling today, then you can make your way back in that consolation bracket, in, the other side of the bracket before the championship game. And I say all that, the rest of the pitching staff has looked pretty good for Central East Maui. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason for us to really sit here and be like, oh, they might have an implosion. Like, any staff might have an implosion on any given day, especially when they're a bunch of 13, 12, and 11-year-olds,
Yeah.
So, well, it's fun to see how today will end up shaking out.
Yeah, and to look back on how the Mountain region has done. They are a team that can put up runs because in their lone game that they've had so far, they beat the Metro region 9-1. So definitely can put batters on base and score some of the runs. So we will see what happens. All right, got to step aside, and we will, like I said, during the second hour, we will keep you updated with what is happening during the game. And then you can also watch it on ESPN if you guys are, I always say this, if you guys are at home, you can watch it on mute and you can still listen to us, or you can always listen to us on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcast. But we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll be back to chat more about what you missed in high school football on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
DOIA lives here. KGU AM, K236CR. Honolulu is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760. Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Wake Up in the Den. Alongside Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani, and we still got a packed second hour of the show. It felt like the first hour flew by, and we got a lot more football talk to chat about in this second hour. We'll get into high school football first, and then just want to remind everyone that coming up at the bottom of the hour at 9:30, University of Hawaii football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield is scheduled to join us so we can ask about what he has seen from his unit during the fall camp and preparing to play against or to open up against Delaware State. All right, taking a look and getting into high school football first. We will, for those watching on YouTube, we'll put up these scores from this past weekend. But I want to get into one of the biggest games of the season leading up to it, and one of the wildest games between Mililani and St. Louis. St. Louis playing at Mililani, and you guys, it was wild. It was one of those games where it's like you saw just about everything. There was like a safety, a kick catch interference, which I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that called ever before, at least in high school or maybe at any level. Like when they called it, I'm like, what the heck is that? Kick catch interference. But the ending is when it really got crazy. So Mililani had like they punt. They were forced to punt. The punt goes off the back of the head of a St. Louis player, and Mililani ends up recovering the football. So they're not able to advance because of the rules. He went in for the touchdown, but it didn't count. But they still were able to get possession of the football again. And if that was crazy, and so Mililani trailed 14-9 at that time. And then if we thought that was crazy, probably like the craziest maybe potential catch of the year candidate, even though the season has just started, by Lahiva Kahana Travis. 3rd and 18, just under 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then it's like a bomb to the back of the end zone. And it didn't look like it was good at all. And I think Michael was like texting me like, what does it look like on TV? I was like, that actually does look good, because I can imagine in real time it didn't look. St. Louis thought like, no way that was a catch. I didn't think it was a catch. Ref called it a catch, but he was watching. You could see him. He was perfectly in position. Watch the ball, watch the catch come down. Obviously, you only need 1 foot in high school and in college as well, but it was insane, you guys. Like, I encourage you. I think Rob DeMello has it posted on his social media via Spectrum, the highlight of that catch, because it was insane. And then so Mililani goes up. And then, unfortunately, when St. Louis has the ball, this is the part where we talk about situational football, everybody, about teaching your kids and even grown-ups, like at the college level that we talked about with UH football, teaching them situational football, because you never know what's going to happen in the game and you need to be well prepared. So it's unfortunate, because I feel so bad for the kid, the St. Louis quarterback, because they were driving down the field, but then he ends up spiking it on 4th and 1 with 24 seconds left. And so turnover on downs for Mililani, and obviously game over. But you could just see after he spiked it, he put his hands like on his helmet, and everyone was just in shock, including us, including Felipe Ohastro and the broadcasters in the booth. Like, what just happened? But again, I can't even fault the kid, because that's something that you need to coach and be aware of, to make your players aware that, hey, in these situations, you need to know that this is what you do and what you don't do, and building it up to that. Like Felipe is like, all right, they're either going to go for it or they're going to send out the special teams. And then when it was the spike, it was like, no, it almost like it happened in slow motion. It was insane. But like I said, I feel so bad for him, and you can tell he feels horrible, but it's not his fault. It's just needed to be prepared for that type of situation. It was crazy.
You go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you talk about situational football, right? And then we're gonna hear from the assistant head coach Vavai Tata and quarterback Kiko Kong. But it all started. I mean, first off, I do want to say I felt like Mililani was trying to win the game while St. Louis was trying to not lose in this fourth quarter. But what really started off in terms of situational football was early in the fourth quarter, where Mililani had the ball. It was 4th and 10. I think they were at the St. Louis 34 or something like that. Like they were still kind of like near midfield or close to midfield. It was 4th and 10 or 4, however long it would be. And there was an interception thrown by Mililani, but instead of batting it down by St. Louis, they intercept the ball on the 4-yard line. And, you know, and I'm not going to give the player's name, but that was one of their higher rated recruit players. And then on the very next play, one of their other top recruits got a false start. So it was first and 12 on the 2-yard line. They did. I mean, the quarterback I thought he was going to pull a Dan Orlovsky, you're running on the back of the end zone, but he did get out there, and they did convert a first down, so I'm not going to fault them, but a bad snap forced him to kick it out of the back of the end zone, and that pretty much, that safety was the difference when you look at the score. It literally was the difference in the scoreboard, but that's the situation of football that we talk about is like, hey, and even the coaches in the Milan sounds like, hey, we're okay. That's just a punt, right? Normally you're like, oh, why'd you throw that pick? But no, there's like, hey, we're fine. That's probably a better outcome because they have the opportunity to get the safety. They do get the safety, and that kind of just took off from there. And heck of a game.
Yeah, and before we discuss the game a little bit more, again, Mililani beating St. Louis 16-14, which really came down to like the last few minutes of that game. Here is what associate head coach for Mililani, Vavai Tata, had to say as Michael Esquero had a chance to catch up with him in the postgame.
Congratulations on this. You know, heck of a fourth quarter. I think you guys won that fourth quarter in all phases, offense, defense, and special teams. Talk about the team coming together.
Hey, glory to God, man. Hats off to St. Louis for the opportunity. You know, it was a rock fight from the first snap to the last. You know, unfortunately, somebody's got to come out victorious. I'm just glad that, you know, the Mililani kids put it together. You know, they played for all the injured players, Keeney, you know, Koa. So, you know, I'm always about next man up. So, you know, they took the challenge. And with this one, man, tough sledding.
You guys threw an interception on the 1-yard line. You guys had a chance for the safety. Didn't get it, but you get a couple plays later. How much did you guys know that you guys needed to get those 2 points?
Only God knew that. I didn't know. The good Lord knew it, man.
You talk about your faith and God, right? Talk about that punt where it went off the St. Louis player's head and that kind of set up the game-winning touchdown.
Talk about Halloween, right? Jeez. Timing is everything. I don't control the time. I know who does, though. The good Lord does.
And then the game-winning touchdown pass to win the game.
Oh. Wasn't it on third down or fourth down?
It was close. It was clutch, yeah.
That was a good sense of Hail Mary, man.
And then defense coming up, and then, you know, just they come up with a blunder there at the end. Just how does that work out, man?
You know, in the heat of the moment, man, when the game's on the line and two, you know, big-time competitors in St. Louis and Mililani, you know, things happen. It's just, you know, fortunately that we got the better end of the stick.
And that was Mililani football associate head coach Vavai Tata following their huge win 16-14 over St. Louis. And now here is what their starting quarterback Keikoa Kung, who is in for the injured Keeney McMillan for the foreseeable future, but here is what he had to say following that game.
1 week ago, at this moment, you know, you were kind of thrown into the fire having to play for Keeney. You make the move from Kapolei to here. What is your emotions right now?
Man, I feel good. Moving over here, good choice. But all my glory goes to the Lord and Savior, man. Yep.
You know, when you had to, what was your thoughts after the Kailua game?
I knew that next week we're gonna have a tough opponent. We just had to step up and just ball, yeah.
You look at, but St. Louis, you mentioned a tough opponent, right? I think like half of their defense are D1 college players. What was your mindset and how did you prepare for this game?
Just those guys are dogs, but we just knew that we were the better team. We just had to show it, yeah.
You know, Keeney's out, and then also Cole is out, right? The starting running back.
Yeah.
Talk about your receivers and your linemen and everybody stepping up to help you guys get this W.
Everybody stepping up. They just proving themselves that even though that our starting guys are down, we still got this. Just keeping the train moving.
And then talk about that game-winning pass, the touchdown, because I think you guys got a hold, so it was like 3rd and long, and you just went for the home run. Talk about that play and Lehiva coming up with it.
We had a lock on the one. Lehiva's a dog. I just knew if I put it in a spot where he can get it, he's gonna make those type of plays. And then talk about your defense coming up there at the end, getting the safety and getting the stops. Man, the defense is the people, is the guys that kept us in this game. Without them, it would have been a hard fight.
What does it say about this team that even through adversity, you guys can find ways to get the W?
It just shows that we're ready for any obstacle that comes in our way. Yeah.
And that was our Michael Esquero catching up with Mililani's starting quarterback Keiko Kung following their win over St. Louis 16-14. And again, I am just going, this is like it was like the ugliest and craziest game ever. And of course it's a positive because Mililani won. Hey, shout out Mililani.
Shout out OIA as the official partner of the radio partner of the OIA.
But yeah, Mililani especially.
Clearly we were saying that because OIA. That's all.
Ain't no shame of my Mililani ties. But anyways, yeah, it was insane. Again, if you guys, you can go check out Rob DeMello's social media if you haven't seen the catch of the year. I mean, even Felipe Ojastro said it. Like I know season's just getting underway, but it was insane. Again, Lahiva, Kahana, Travis for just being able to not only go up to get it amongst, I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 like St. Louis defenders around him, and then catch it, bring it down, get a foot in, and still maintain possession when he fell to the ground. It was insane. So
yeah,
but I still can't get over it.
I don't know if we have it queued up, but when I did talk to Lehiva after the game, he said the ball was a little bit high.
Yeah,
so he had to go up there. And I'm just kind of happy for Lehiva. I kind of know the family a bit. I did work with his auntie Robin over at Honor Box Chiropractic in my day, and you know his twin brother is Nicole Kahana Travis, who's the running back who I think he had close to 1,000 yards.
So I was gonna say I know the Kahana Travis family name because last year when we were doing games, I was just like, now wait a second, I think that's a different name, but wait. Because families, man. The amount of talent in that family, I'm glad you bring it up.
But I'm glad for Lehiva because Nicole was the one getting a lot of the shine, right? And then we've done, I think me and Kyle Chen done some kind of, 2 at least media interviews with the 2 brothers at Dylan Gabriel's event and at the GPA camp. And it was always Nicole kind of taking the lead in the answering first. So Lehiva, got a chance to shine. Nicole, again, no Keenan McMillan. Nicole Kahana Travis, I think he's dealing with maybe a little I can't remember, but he told me that he got hurt in a scrimmage, so he's out for a couple weeks. And their top receiver that was coming back from last year, Onosai Salanoa, I think he's out for the year with a broken foot. So you had all these things against Mililani coming to this game, and they pull it off. So glory to God.
Glory to God.
I love how you dropped that there, Michael. All right, we got to take a break, but when we come back, we will continue our high school football recap, and then later on in this show, we will hear from UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
I'm Scarlett.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro getting you caught up with high school football that happened over the weekend, as it was quite the wild weekend. One of the other games to happen, Waipahu getting their first win of the season, beating Kailua 29-14 in what really feels like quite the rebuilding year for Waipahu. And before we discuss that game, we will actually hear from their head coach, Bryson Carvalho, as Michael had a chance to catch up with him following, again, their win over Kailua 29-14.
Well, Coach, first win of the year. I know you guys went through some adversity last week in this game. You lose tie, I think, in that second drive, but I felt like you guys played complimentary football today.
Yeah, we did. I like the way David stepped up. That's kind of our motto, right? Got to be next man up. From the whole summer, we talked about, just being a young team and everybody just got to do their part. So I was proud of David stepping up there, and then even Tristan, kind of taking the load at running back. Did a good job, but we still got our work cut out for us. So.
You mentioned Tristan, David, and then David kind of came big with two touchdowns. Talk about him.
Yeah, so he's a guy that we have a lot of expectations for. We pulled him up as a freshman, so he's now in his third year, and we're expecting him to be our guy. Today was one of those days where he stepped up for us, so we want to make sure that he keeps consistent and not just has these 1-2 surprise games. We want to make sure that he continues to be our go-to guy.
Defensively, you guys got 3 turnovers and you guys scored on 2 of them. I think that was the difference. So talk about those plays.
Yeah, defensively, just like I said, earlier, hats off to Coach Ma. He just does a good job, adjusting. He adjusted coverage. Once he started throwing the ball, we adjusted some coverage stuff, and we're able to kind of put them in good situations for our defense. And we're able to come up with a pick there that was real big, and then some turnovers. Just some even that late game stop was real big.
I know it's not the cleanest game that you guys would have wanted, but I felt like you guys were more disciplined. They have more penalties on them, more turnovers on them.
Yeah.
Do you kind of see the improvement from last week?
Oh, for sure. I think, yeah, they did play a disciplined game. And Kailua is always going to be a tough team. They're always going to be physical, always going to be aggressive. So, we're a little bit banged up. We got a little bit more than just Taiga that is hurt from this game. But that just comes with, playing a team like that. But why we schedule that is because we're in the gauntlet of the open division, and we got to make sure we're ready for that kind of physicality. But I like the way they played. Like you said, I like the way they were disciplined, and at the end of the day, we executed. So.
And that was Waipahu football head coach Bryson Carvalho following their 29-14 win over Kailua. Again, getting in the win column after losing their season opener to Tafuna, 41-35 last week. The interesting thing, though, as we kind of look throughout the league, and we'll pull up our scoreboard again for our people watching on YouTube, is that Farrington had a big win over Tafuna on Friday, 41-14, both teams in the open division, and they will play on October 18th at Waipahu. So that's something to take a look at, as we can expect a lot. It's almost like they're like opposite, right? Like Waipahu lost a lot of players due to graduation and transferring, and then Farrington, now coached by Mike Lafaele and a bunch of other former Rainbow Warriors as well, that they gained a lot of players over there at Farrington. And of course, we can't say enough great things about the job that Coach Mike Lafaele has done and how good of a coach that he is and what he's building there at Farrington. But it'll be interesting to see what that comes down to on October 18th. Again, and Coach Bryson mentioned it, that now they are playing in the open division, and the competition is going to be next level now.
Yeah, and this win was really great for them because, coming into the year this year, I thought like, hey, Fa'afetai Fa'alanga, he's the one who's going to be care of the team, and they're going to go as he goes. But he goes out of this game, I think something with his wrist or his hand. I know he had it iced up on the sideline. But they found a way to get the job done. And I said it in the interview, they played complementary football. They took advantage of turnovers when they got it and takeaways, and they scored. And they're pretty much the difference with being a 4-touchdown to 2-touchdown game. So shout out for that. Going to Farrington, we are getting that game on Friday on Hawaii Sports Radio Network. So tune into that. me and Paul. I think that'll be Paul's debut on the Hawaii High School broadcast stage. So that'll be fun to see. But I think the White Paul game is actually White Paul's homecoming. So that's going to be a pretty lit game. And hopefully it's not on TV so we can maybe do it on the radio.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens. And taking a look at some of the other scores we mentioned, and Michael had posted the graphic of Hawaii versus the continent. Didn't fare too well for our Hawaii schools over the weekend. We have Kamehameha losing to Mission Viejo 41-7. Also, Punahou losing to Sierra Canyon 30-7. And probably the big one that we were curious to see what happens, Kahuku was on the continent to take on Bishop Gorman, who is ranked number 2 in the country, and they fell 33-7. So kind of the standout games over there. A close one, though, with Viewpoint and Kauai. Viewpoint only beating Kauai 14-13. And how do you anticipate maybe after the week 2 of games, Michael, what do you anticipate we see as terms of the shakeup with the Scoring Live football power rankings?
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think St. Louis is going to be in the top 5. I'll tell you that. I know a lot. We got on the comment section. There was a little spiciness in there. So, yeah. Well, remains to see where St. Louis falls into this. I do think the top. It's going to be kind of OI heavy in the top. So that's kind of cool to see as the OI partner. But yeah, that's going to be the shakeup. Where does St. Louis land, and where does the rest of everybody fall from that, or move up from there? I think towards the bottom of the standings, maybe Iolani might go down because they did lose to Leilehua, and Kapaa might move up because they were kind of pretty respectable against Farrington, who's probably a top 5 team in the state. So, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. Check the comment sections. I wish we could able to put on YouTube. Maybe that's something we can work out with Brianing over at Scoring Live, where we'll have people tuning in live to watch our YouTube to get the power rankings. But definitely need a sponsor first, maybe to make that.
Shameless plug. I love that. We will definitely see what happens, and we will get you caught up with more of the high school football conversation. But for now, I see that Thomas is ready to go. So we're going to step aside for a quick break. And when we come back, we will welcome in the University of Hawaii football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach, Thomas Sheffield. So don't go anywhere. Coming up next on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Honey, did you fix the door yet?
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Escarroll in the empty chair. But we're excited here to welcome in Chat Moore, University of Hawaii football, as joining us now is UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield. Thomas, what's up? I feel like it's been like a while since we've had you on the show, so I'm stoked to have you back on and talk about the team.
Yeah, stoked to be back on. Appreciate you, Koo.
All right. So, of course, want to invite you on because now that fall camp has wrapped and we are officially in game week, want to speak specifically about your unit in special teams and just get your overall thoughts on what you saw in the fall.
Yeah, fall camp's gone really well. I think we've taken a lot of big strides to get to where we want to go. Obviously, the work is never done, and we can't ever be satisfied with what we put on film. Just got to continue to work. But I think the kids have really accepted the challenge of what we're trying to get accomplished, and they are listening and doing everything that we're asking them to do. And we have really good leadership. And so, leadership goes a long ways when you're talking about special teams. And you guys you have people like Logan Taylor, Noah Kemma, Jemiah Otis, Peter Monema, just a bunch of guys who are really the older guys who are really bought into what we're trying to accomplish. And they understand how big of an impact special teams can have on a game.
Yeah, and that's something we also made reference to in our first hour of the show, giving a lot of credit to the special teams because it's almost like the thankless unit at times where you definitely notice when things go wrong. But when nothing goes wrong and maybe nothing crazy stands out, it's kind of like an afterthought. But just not making any mistakes is kind of the key, especially on special teams. So I wanted to talk to you, though. I have to ask the question. I feel like I already know the answer, but I have to ask because I know the fans want to know on what the kicker situation is between Kansei and Kluth.
Yeah, so they're still battling. I know we're in game week and people want to have a starter named, but to be fair to the kids, I just think that competition needs to continue to go through at least through the week. We've gone through all of fall camp. They've kicked the same number of kicks from the exact same spots, and there's one kick that separates them from who's the starter and who's not. And so now that it's game week and there's a little more pressure on them, I just want to see what they're made of and who's going to really set themselves apart from one another. And so we're going to probably go at least for sure until Friday before we make that decision. And if it's still one kick difference, I might make that decision in pregame. So depending on how their pregame goes. And they both understand that. They both are very aware. We're very honest with our guys. The good thing about it is they're very talented. They're both very talented. So we have depth at the kicking position, which is a huge positive. I'm glad that it's such a hard decision to have to make because that tells me everything I need to know about those two boys. They're very competitive. They're mentally tough and they're competing and they're fighting for that job. And again, it shows that we have depth at the position.
Yeah, for sure. And we are joined by UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield. I want to get into Tylan Hines. So we had chatted about him earlier in the show, but wanted to get your take mainly because we already knew that he was making the move from being a running back to a receiver, but now he is actually going to be receiving both kicks and punts. So I want to get your take on what you've seen from him so far and what went into making that decision to add him to that special teams unit.
Yeah, coming off of last year, it was definitely a position that we really needed to hone in on and find a guy. And so, we have guys on our roster that are capable and that catch the ball well. The difference is what are they going to do once the ball's in their hands? And, Tylan being one of our better players and one of our best players and one of our most explosive and dynamic players, it only made sense to really pour into him along with guys like Cam Stone, Kowali, Nick Cynical, those guys, those four guys have really done a good job throughout fall camp and made that decision hard as well. But when you just look at what Tylan can bring to the game and when that ball's in his hands and with how well he's caught the ball all camp, it kind of made that decision a little easier because that's the guy you want the ball in the hands of. And so we're going to let him spin and let it rip, and we'll see what happens after game one.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said it a couple of times about catching the ball because I was kind of trying to explain it to the listeners on how important and difficult that is. But I just want to hear it from your perspective to explain just how important it is to just even have someone that can catch the ball on the kicks and the punts.
Yeah, kick return's easy. There's still people really far away. Where punt return, it takes a different type of human being to stand back there looking up at a punt, not knowing really a whole lot that's going in front of you and just trusting your guys. And that's a big emphasis this whole off season and this fall camp is, just do it for the brother next to you, and make sure that we're holding each other accountable. And, Tylen's got to trust his guys that are blocking in front of him and know that when he catches the ball, he's going to have space that he can secure the catch and then go make his move, and so it takes a different type of human being to catch punt returns. Kick return, anybody can do that, but punt return, you got to have a different set on you. So I'm excited about what Tylen brings, and catch first, return second.
And that was perfectly said by you, as we are joined by UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield.
And so we're talking about punting, right? I'm curious about the guy that you guys brought in, Lucas Burrow, there, and what you've seen from him. Also, Ben Falk has been there. He's worked with the kickoffs. With those guys, what you've seen as it's continued throughout camp, and obviously just don't want to leave them out. We've kind of hit on everything else.
Yeah, so, both have done a tremendous job. Ben is kind of the leader of the group from a specialist standpoint. He's been here the longest. He has the most game experience, and, he's really taken that on, that leadership on. And so, the value that Ben brings is, you can't measure it. You really can't. I really, truly believe he's got the best kickoff leg in the entire conference, if not the country. His value that he brings. I mean, when you sit back and look at last year, we really only had to cover 7 kickoffs. Truly kick deep, 7 kickoffs in an entire season. And so everything else being a touchback or, situational kicks, that value is unbelievable. And so it takes a lot of stress off of a lot of people, including myself, and I enjoy that. And then with Lucas, Lucas may not be the most talented punter from a hang time standpoint, but he is the best punter I've ever had when it comes to placing the ball into the boundary or to the field, wherever we're punting the football. I tell him what spot we're looking to hit and where the coverage is going, and he about 90% of the time will put that ball exactly where he wants to put it. And so the value that you place on that is unmeasurable as well. And so really excited about both of them. Really happy that we got Lucas into the program and the value that he brings, not just as the punter, but as a holder as well. Him and Ben are both competing for that holding job, and, they push each other. They both understand the big picture. It's not about them, it's about the team. And, you get 120 guys in the program that are like that. Really good things are going to happen for Hawaii football.
And looking now ahead, game week, Delaware State this Saturday. From what you can share with us, of course, what is this week going to look like as you guys prepare for Delaware State to open the season, and what you maybe know about their special teams unit so far?
Yeah, one thing they do really well is return the ball. Last year on punt return, they averaged 21 yards a return, which was second in all of FCS football. And so we got to put a big emphasis on not only protecting, because they like to rush the punt as well a lot. One of their biggest return on the year was a 90-yard punt return that came off of a full-out rush. It was, you want to talk about like Madden. It was engage 8. They're sending the whole house, and the returner just made like 6 or 7 guys miss and went down the sideline for 90 yards. And so, when you play a team that's like that can do both at a high level, you got to prepare, and you got to be well prepared for it. And we got to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. And, from a kickoff return standpoint, same deal. They're very basic in what they do, very simple, but they're very efficient. And so, we got to make sure we're very sound in the cover game. And then from a return standpoint, I don't know exactly who their punter is going to be right now. It might be a true freshman. I'm not really sure. We're trying to figure that out as we speak. We'll know by pregame. But they do a good job in punt. They're very sound in special teams. They play really hard. They do a lot of good things. But we've identified some weaknesses that we got to go attack. And at the end of the day, the kids just got to go execute the game plan with their technique and fundamentals. And if we do that, we're going to have a really good day on Saturday.
It sounds good to us, as we are joined by UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield. All right, Coach. How are the Cowboys going to look this year? I had to throw in a Cowboys question with you joining
Super
us for the
Bowl.
first time this
It's the
season.
Super Bowl every year. If we don't win the Super Bowl, I mean, it's Super Bowl or bust. And I know we didn't make any. We didn't go after any crazy free agents. We didn't do all these things that everybody's. I know CD's still hanging out at the beach or wherever the heck he's at, not happy with his contract. But all those things will work themselves out. The Dallas Cowboys will be in the Super Bowl. They'll win the Super Bowl. And, if they don't, well, we'll take it on the chin one more time as Cowboys fans like we have for the last 47,000 years. And we'll keep rolling. Those Chicago Bears don't look bad, though, Koo.
Oh, trust me.
Chicago Bears, there's going to be rough patches, but that quarterback, he's something special.
Thank you. Music to my ears. I don't want to get too obnoxious because I have all week to just talk about Chicago the whole time.
Yeah, you don't need to egg her on. She's definitely already let us know about
I'm just
that.
saying, they look decent.
They have.
That's
They
all you
really
can ask
have.
for. I mean, it can't get worse than what they've been. So,
exactly. You can only go up from here.
Fair.
Can only go up.
I'm a little curious. I'm sure you've been asked only 107 times what your thoughts are on the new kickoff rules and how you'd go about that as a special teams coordinator and the returns, because everybody's talked about, they're not going to show off anything in the preseason. Special teams coordinators are going to keep all that stuff in their back pocket. And I'm sure there's some truth to that. What would you do? What do you think about the new rules? Would you think you'd be creative with it, or do you think it's just kind of a reshuffling of the cards in the deck of what we already have?
I really like that they have created ways to return the ball again. I think everybody was tired of seeing touchbacks, and then when you have a Super Bowl where there's no kick returns, that's not good for the game, in my opinion. And so, I think one of my fondest memories of Super Bowls was, but Chicago Bears, Devin Hester, taking it back to the crib.
That's what I think about too.
Yep.
From a fan standpoint, not just a special teams coach, but from a fan standpoint, I want to see more of those things. And so I'm excited that the return game is back. I'm not excited about them starting at whatever yard line they're starting at. I think they take away some of the speed aspect of the game, and obviously it cuts down on the collisions, but I mean, it's football, and we all know what we signed up for when we put that helmet and shoulder pads on. And so that's easy for me to say. I'm not having to block a guy who's 250 pounds running a 4.40. However, if I could adjust it, the only thing that I would do, to be honest, is I'd move the kicker back about 10 more yards. I'd have them kick off from the 25 or the 20, either one, so we can ensure that that ball's not going to go in the end zone. And then I would move the kickoff team back to the 50, starting point of the 50. Keep the rules the same. They can't leave until the ball is caught. But now it gives the kick return team to set up true traditional returns of a double team and a trap block and kick out blocks. And then on the other side, the kickoff team, they still get to work their avoid. They can still be in open space, work open field avoid block destruction. And then, I still think from the 50 to the goal line, those collisions aren't going to be as crazy. But again, you're going to create more excitement. And again, if you back up the kickoff team just 10 more yards, I think they start at the 40, get them at the 50. Now you can work some avoid stuff, but you're still going to get a lot of big returns, which is, again, that's the whole reason for the rule. And so, I know it's a year experiment. They'll mess with it after this year, make some changes to it that they need to make, but hopefully it's the things that I'm talking about.
I like the adjustments that you suggested because it's kind of like a best of both worlds, right? Where you go semi back to where we came from, but we still have the safety measures that are in there.
Yes.
It's still taking into account the collision and whatnot, but we get, like you said, the returns that everybody loves to see and wants to see, or at least more opportunities for them. I like that. I knew asking the special
I
teams
love that
coordinator.
you got that question in there. That was like the perfect answer because I can see it too. Because you're right. I mean, even if, yes, the Chicago Bears were not my team, that was such an electrifying
Iconic moment.
Unfortunately, it didn't end with Chicago winning the Super Bowl, but nonetheless, it's probably the most memorable play from that Super Bowl, even though they didn't win.
That's called the Peyton Manning effect. That's why I named my first son Peyton. So, but yeah, if Roger Goodell needs some ideas, I have tons of them. So I think it would be really good, though. Either way, what they're doing is better for the game. I think it makes it more exciting. And that's what you really want. You want to see returns because again, there's just so many great players that have been return specialists. I mean, Devin Hester just got in the Hall of Fame for it. You know what I mean? And we need more Hall of Famers like that. And so I'm excited about the direction it's going. Just a couple adjustments, and I think they'll have it right.
All right, Coach Jeff, before we let you go, though, what do you want to tell all of the UH fans listening right now?
I'll just, look forward to seeing you in TC Ching, loud, rowdy, and just supporting our boys. Our boys put in so much work, and, they're doing it for each other, but the biggest thing is they're doing it for the people of this island and the state of Hawaii. And so, if people could understand how much they put in, they would be in these stands each and every week, packed, ready to go, and ready to be a part of the new golden era of Hawaii football because it's coming.
Yeah, the wins are coming, everybody, and you need to be out there. But for now, we will let you go, and we will see you out there on Saturday. And definitely after, we got to do like our jump side thing after the dub that we always do.
Deal. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for everything y'all do for Hawaii football. Go Bows.
Go Bows. We'll talk to you soon, Thomas. Thomas Sheffield, the University of Hawaii football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach. We got to take a break. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
It's summertime at the Honolulu Zoo and your magical place for exploring, learning, and enjoying nature. Visit the climbing, crawling, and captivating creatures. Guess where they're hiding, see them snooze, or watch them eat. Then grab yourselves an ice-cold treat. Create lasting memories with your keiki, kupuna, and everyone in between. Live wild and see the wild live at the Honolulu Zoo. Visit honoluluzoo.org today.
All sports are played by humans, coached by humans, and officiated by humans. So the next time you're
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Liscaro again. Mahalo once again to UH football special teams coordinator and tight ends coach Thomas Sheffield. A lot of insight there, and I'm glad you did ask that question though, Paul. That was perfect about the NFL, the new NFL rules when it comes to the kickoff.
I
love that.
That
was
for weeks.
Perfect. If you guys missed any of that interview, you'll be able to listen or watch on our YouTube channel. So, well, actually, we'll put up the full interview. It's kind of just the graphic on our live show, but you can see it later on today on our YouTube channel or listen on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. This time just like flew by, and we talked a lot of football. Like, it's amazing.
Did we talk anything else? We mentioned the Central East Maui.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We forgot to see so much football talk. We totally forgot to put on the game today. Also, it's kind of in the background of YouTube, so we don't really know how that'll go on for everybody.
I was going to put it on. We can wait for now.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because I wanted to share this story. I was able to hang out with my family over the weekend for my little cousin's grad party, and there was natural vibes in the house, so it kind of quite literally turned into more of my cousin's party, being the graduate's mom. It turned into her party and the adult party more than anything else. But it was pretty cool to kind of see like the kids also jamming to natural vibes, and everyone out there in like especially in the millennial age. Like, I mean, it was just nostalgia and reminiscent of essentially like my early 20s and teen times, like going to the Shell. And it was crazy, but yeah, it kind of reminded me, and that's why I want to share this funny story. It reminded me a lot of when my parents took over my grad party because I had OPE pickers that performed at my grad party, and they pretty much took it over. My dad was on stage singing, and my mom was dancing on the tables, and I'm like, I'm watching my cousin like just take over the stage of her daughter's grad party. And I even told my mom, I went up to my mom while this was all going on. I was like, Mom, this reminds me a lot of what you and Dad did at my grad party. So I can only imagine. I remember sitting with my friends like, oh my gosh, like, is that my dad on stage? Oh my gosh, there's my mom dancing on the table. Like, whose party is this? Like, and you know what? I will totally be that parent if that time ever comes. So
sure.
I'm like, you know what? Who paid for this? I did. It is my party now too.
Exactly.
Oh gosh, that's so fun though. That's like, those type of days are supposed to be memories like that, right? Where you go back and you kind of think about how mom, dad, how they might have not embarrassed you, but they let loose a little bit too on the same day that you let loose. Graduation parties are always fun for that. I can't say that my parents, did that at mine. I don't remember Mama Heather dancing on any tables, but, they definitely had their fun with plenty of people. I got a feeling that grad parties here in Hawaii got a little extra zest, a little extra juice than pretty much anywhere else on the continent. I don't know. I don't know what tells me that, just something.
Well,
something
and just we have those bands, and then the adults
well,
get
that's
into
another
action.
Thing,
I don't
like,
think
you're talking about OPE pickers, coming to perform at your. I'm like, perform. I'm like, we had a nice like Spotify playlist with a Beats pill to play the music.
Oh, you guys, I had everything. Like, my parents knew how to throw a party for me. So as we had mentioned, and that Michael always brings up, I was part of Hyper Squad, and Michael likes to talk about the Brian Valoria thing. But so we had like Hyper Squad perform. I had a magician that also performed at my grad party. OPE pickers. Oh, I had obviously like the Tahitian dancers as well. So it had just about everything. It was like packed with entertainment. Just like my cousin's party, she's married to one of the sons of the Kamaka family. So like Kamaka ukulele. So they have kind of like the tie to all the bands. So you had Ho'okena, which is like her father-in-law's part of that band. Well, actually, they were going by McKenna yesterday because their lead singer wasn't there, and it was actually a guy from the Makaha Sons that filled in. So they kind of blended the name because as bands go, you kind of change up the name when it's not the original band members, which is interesting with Natural Vibes because Penny Dean is kind of like on his own now, and it's Natural Vibes. But either way, it was a fun time. Fortunately for my little cousin, whose grad party it was, she was on stage too. She was not in any shed of embarrassment that like all the adults are going crazy at her grad party. So shout out and congratulations to Leah Kamaka because it was quite the party.
That sounds like such a fun day. I'm curious about what like games and stuff are musts at grad parties.
Are there games? I mean, the only game that was played was the centerpiece thing, which it was whoever was at the table was like closest to her birthday.
See, that's so funny because for me, I sit here and I think about grad parties. You gotta have like a spike ball tournament. You gotta have like can jam. You need like ladder ball out there. You need yard games to go along with like the vibes and all that stuff. So that's like why I sit here. I bring up like games and whatever. It's like you'll have the I was gonna say old people, but the aunties and uncles who are the aunties and uncles of your aunties and uncles. They'll be off playing like the card games or whatever. But I always think of like yard games when it comes with grad parties too.
I think here is more of about the entertainment, like the bands that play.
And that's why I was curious.
I always see like Rebel Soldiers are always at like grad parties. So it's always about like the entertainment, the music, and like the food here of like the good food.
So
You're
don't
always,
worry, the food's
you're always
always
going to get the good food.
always a centerpiece.
I had bomb food at mine too. I did even have like a guava cake at my grad party.
Wow.
That at that time it was just my favorite type of cake. It's like the only flavor of cake that I love to eat when I do enjoy some cake. But by the time I was ready to get
noted,
by the time I was ready to go get a slice of cake, it had been wiped out because guava cake is something people don't expect. And they went, once one person found out it was guava cake, it was like, it got wiped out. I didn't even get to see, it was like, it had Eeyore on it and everything because he was like my favorite Winnie the Pooh character. I know. So it was just, it was interesting. But yeah, it was just total deja vu yesterday at my little cousin's grad party, seeing her parents kind of take over. And her husband, Dustin, I mean, usually we're doing like the backyard jams and stuff and he's on the ukulele and you're kind of singing. But he like grabbed the microphone and then like started singing. And I was like, I did not know you sang that well. I know he didn't sing bad, but I was like, sounds like he's in the band already. Like it's shout out Dustin because he just like came out there totally like in his feelings, like eyes closed and everything, holding the mic.
That's
I'm
when
trying to remember.
know people are feeling it. When the eyes are closed, that is when it is like over the top. And you're like, oh, they are in it.
Yeah.
They are performing.
It was awesome. Did you have a grad party, Michael?
I don't talk about it too much. It was kind of not. I mean, it's just parents doing it, but then they're not fun parents. I mean, they're not
You didn't
fun
have
parents.
any can jam.
It was a dry event, so I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But gimme gimme is a kind of a staple at these wedding parties. You know, gimme gimme is Paul.
I don't.
So
maybe I do, just not by that name.
Yeah. So it's like when the MC. It's a good for the MC to stall time if they need a stall time. Where they're like, oh, and then they'll have like they'll actually have like a sponsor, like $1 bill or $5. They're like, oh, gimme a picture of you and the graduate, and then you have to run up and like show your phone or gimme a long drugs receipt, and someone's trying to go to their bag,
trying to go through your little wallet, your purse, or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay,
and it's
that's a
still part of
fun
the
game.
entertainment because you see people trying to run up there and
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then
that
they're
sounds
like
fun.
pushing each other on the side. Sometimes
like
it gets
that.
a little violent, but depending on what the prize is, you'll see them. If it's like $100 bill,
I was
you'll
gonna
see
say,
people
you're gonna see
tackling
me
each other.
looking like a bumper car out there. Boom, boom.
Get out of my way.
Boom, boom. You know? It's all that matters. Once you get to that point in the day, you know?
well, we don't have enough of us to play that in there. Maybe when we have a
Someday.
company party. But no, it was a lot of fun. Again, I mean, shout out to everyone that came out to celebrate Leia, and just my deja vu of my grad party and my parents taking over the entertainment. Yeah, my dad was essentially like how Leia's dad was, and was on the microphone with the OP pickers on stage like, this is my favorite song. I think it was Victim. It was Victim by OP pickers, and then my dad was just like totally into it and jamming. And yeah, like I said, my mom, I'm pretty sure she had like tea leaves in her hand too while she's on the table, and was like, woo. But then I think about it.
God, your parents are awesome. I love
And then
your
it's weird, right? Because
parents.
at the time I'm like, this is so embarrassing, and I have grown up to be that person because I would be the same. It would be
the
me.
commercials. You're turning into your parents. Don't turn into your parents. You know, at that.
It'll happen. But before we go, Central East Maui is trailing Nevada in the bottom of the third. But we got to go for Michael Escaro, Paul Brecht. I'm Kule Agbayani. Bye.
Home of the Los Angeles Clippers, KGU AM K236CR is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on AM 760, 95.1 FM.
From the Salem News Center, I'm Chaz Ontai. The Hawaii Democratic Party is sending 41 delegates to this week's Democratic National